Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's open forum. Today we have a very special guest, Jim Kennedy with Home Safe Property Inspections. Jim is going to talk to us about, he's the president of Home Safe Property Inspections. Jim's going to talk to us about the wood destroying organisms, termite inspections in Florida. Jim, take it away for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll go through this. I'm going to go into a little bit about ourselves, and then we'll get high into the PowerPoint presentation. I just want you to kind of keep thoughts of maybe some kind of past experiences that you've had with either termites or inspections involving termites and or things, different items that were found, protections, things of that sort. We're going to go through all that, but I'll take your questions at a couple of different phases. I'll stop and ask if there's any questions, so that way it's not lingering too long in your head, and let's see if that generates any additional questions from anybody else. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so just a little bit about us, and I'll go through this pretty quickly. I had many of you in my class about a month and a half, 2 months ago for AI. Just to give us some validity, we've done over 7,000 inspections, and that includes home inspections and termite inspections. I managed a company for home inspections and WDOTermite, a pest control company, for 8 years prior to. We actually, at that time, I managed over 120 home inspectors around the state of Florida doing WDOTermite inspections underneath my company that I was managing. All right. Why we're different? We offer an educational approach for all buyers. We don't just call and book an inspection. We sell it to them. We schedule it with them. We discuss it with them in detail, every facet of everything that they should be considering. And then we go through pricing, etc. And then, we try to manage them from there and what they're getting. Some things that we do for you guys that are kind of different from other home inspection companies: we are going to provide you a free digital home binder for all your clients. It's a great tool that they can use for all of their materials that are in the home inspection, as well as other things for their home ongoing. They can use it for insurance repository. They can use it for serial numbers of their appliances. Input that. If there's ever a recall on it, they'll get an automatic notification. They can set it up for notifications on their HVAC system, etc. The really cool thing about it is, for Tammy, Jeanette, and all of you, is that when that notification goes out to them, it's going to be your photo with that notification ongoing for years to come. Okay, so they'll always have your photo, your name, your email, and your phone number, so that way they can reach out to you if they have any additional needs, or if they have somebody else that they know will have a need. Repair Pricer, that's a tool that goes just to the agents after your inspection. You have 24 hours to sign up for it, and that will give you costs to do the repairs that were found in the inspection. So I think it takes about 36 hours to get it done completely. It may be sooner than that, but it's a great tool. It goes to the agent only, and you can share it with your buyer if you'd like to, share different portions of it, however you like it. Unique severity levels, we do our wind mitts and 4 points. We'll take photos of those while we're doing the inspection, but we won't charge the customer for it until they go through the purchase of the property. A couple of reasons for that is sometimes we don't want them paying for something that they're not going to use. And another thing is there may be issues that are with the inspection for the 4 point or the wind mitt that we may either need to go back out for, or that the sellers are going to repair and send us photos for afterwards. So, but what we do for that in the main report is we will show you those issues that need to be addressed by the seller. So we'll have a unique INS severity level on it, so that will let you know all the issues that are going to be causing concern for you to buy an insurance with your 4 point. So we're invested. We're trying to build relationships, and we have an ongoing relationship with you and your buyers as well. And we'll go a little bit more into that when we're doing the termite presentation. All right, so what makes us the best? Fast, reliable turnaround time. You can order a inspection anytime online, 24 hours a day. We're going to get you that report back the same day as the inspection. We are doing 5-day. Inspection periods right now. We do work Saturdays and Sundays, so we can we're definitely orientated to help you guys do your job and to make sure that it fits your schedule and your buyer's schedule as well. I can't tell you how many times we've done inspections for individuals flying in, and we've coordinated to where we're finishing up the inspection at the time that they're able to attend the inspection coming from the airport. These are our services, so pretty much, well, everything that anybody else does, from home inspections, termite, wind mits, 4 points, sewer scopes are a big thing that are, and we're finding a lot of issues in a lot of homes with nowadays. Pool and spa inspections, new construction phase inspections, all 3 phases from pre-slab, pre-drywall on, roof certs, and then walkthrough consultations. All right, and so these are our normal areas that we cover. However, we will travel further outside of this for those inspections that will have at least the home, the termite, the wind mit, and the 4 point. Okay, so we've done inspections out in Tampa, down in Venice. We'll travel. Okay. I don't know if you guys, if you would be so kind, you can just take a snapshot of this right here, so you can go to our website. You can use it. We have a lot of different facets in here that are built in, very much unusual from regular home inspectors, but we have links to your county and city property appraiser websites. We also have a tool for looking up septic and sewer home properties that have septic or sewer. Just if you're not absolutely sure of it, there you can find a tool. It also lets you know whether or not the property is on well or if it's on public water. All right. There are post-inspection resources. There's buyer and agent tools. There's information on how to share our reports, how to condense them and send them easily through email. And then there's also a glossary that you can use, or your buyers can use as well, that will give them definitions of some of the words that we're using in your reports. And this is just when you go to the location, Agent and Home Buyer Resource Center on the top of our website. These are, this is how it will look. You can see over here is the location that you check for the on-site sewage program, and also check whether it's on well or on city water. Okay. All right, one last thing about us, what makes us different is philanthropy. The company that I worked for in the past was kind of, grab the money and go. I wanted to give back to our community, and these are 2 of the noble causes we support. One is Crossroads Corral, which is in Longwood, Florida. It's a rescue horse location, and they provide assisted therapy for veterans and individuals with PTSD, mental health challenges, other issues, abused women, things of that sort. So it's a great cause. We donate a portion of our profit to them every single year. Same as the Wounded Warrior Project. Probably don't need to go into that too much, but I'm sure everybody's aware of that, and they've seen it around for years. Just causes that we feel like we want to be able to give back to our community. All right, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into the WDO termite inspections in Florida. We are unique in our inspections, not us as a company, but the state of Florida. So we'll go through those different things. We'll go over what termites are and what other things are that are gathered into the report, things to look for when you are purchasing or solidifying some sort of termite protection on your property, and as well as the buyer's property. And we see this is our little mascot here, who's a termite, which is probably like, hey, they're kind of a negative thing, but actually they're around for a reason, and we'll get into that as well. All right, so what is a WDO? So WDO is different from what you would have in most other locations. Florida calls this, most other states call this the WD inspection, so it's wood destroying inspection. But because Florida is responsible for reporting on wood decay, and wood decay is not an insect, it is an organism. It's called the WDO. Let me go back there. It wasn't WDI. It's wood destroying insects is what most other states have. All right, but because we report on wood decay is an organism. That's why our reports are called WDO reports. Okay. So termites are silent destroyers. You know, if you're not finding them during the active time when you're in your inspection period, they can go unnoticed for a very long time, especially some of the ones that move very slowly. All right. They feed nonstop. They cause major hidden structural damage. Your drywood termites, which we'll go over, move very, very slowly. They can go unknown for years and cause a tremendous amount of damage. And we'll go over more of that as well. Wood destroying beetles. So these are kind of hidden burrowers. You don't necessarily see them very easily, but you can see some of their some galleries as well as some of their frass. So that's the what comes out of their when they finish chewing up the wood, what they leave behind. Okay, and then wood decay fungi. I'm sure all of you been in the industry long enough to know that these are things that are really important as far as your Veterans Administration and your FHA loans. Okay, so it's basically where water has continued to hit against wood and then cause it to start to soften up, absorb more water, and then decay. All right, so getting back to our Terry the termite, why it's a need. Termites are nature's recyclers. You know, they play a vital role in your natural ecosystem by recycling wood and enriching the soil. But when they move into the home, obviously their benefits turn destructive, causing, you know, a ton of damage. So you can see all the termites in nature, they're responsible for decomposing the wood, nutrient recycling back into the ground, soil enrichment. They're part of the ecosystem, and then habitat creation, and then carbon breakdown. Okay, so termites are unique in the fact that they have, similar to ants, but they have a social structure. So they are organized colonies, and they all have, from birth, they're already kind of predetermined what their job is going to be. And you can see here to the right are some of the different jobs or roles that each of these termites maintain and what they need in order for their social structure and for them to survive. So you can see in the far right hand corner is the queen. She's the one that lays the eggs. And then you're going to have soldiers, which actually defend a colony from ants and other threats. They have in their top of their head is they have something that can actually produce a glue or a nauseating thing for ants and other people that are other pests that are after their colony. The workers, they're going to gather food, they're going to build tunnels, and then they're going to they feed the colonies. Of course, the king mates with the queen and helps the colony stability. And then reproductives are the ones that are responsible for producing additional colonies. So we'll go over that in a little bit. All right, so this is kind of how that works. Well, it is how it works. You have your king and queen. So they go together. They're actually going to swarm from another location. It could be your neighbor's yard. It could be down the road a little bit. It could be from anywhere. They're going to lay their eggs. The eggs are going to turn into nymphs. And then from the nymph, they're going to go into these three different phases where they can become a worker, a soldier, or they become a reproductive. Okay. So the worker, like I said, is going to, take care of feeding, taking care of the area, and then the soldier is going to be a protector, and then the reproductive is actually going to develop wings, and then during swarming season they're going to fly to another location, and then once they get to that location where they feel is suitable for them, they're going to lose their wings. They're going to crawl into a location, and then they're going to go ahead and start being a king and a queen and reproducing again. All All right, so these are the different types of termites and WDOs. We're going to go over some of these more so when it comes to how it affects your buyers or yourself if you have, termite protection at home, which I highly recommend. But we'll go through each one of these because each one of them are significant in their kind, and also how it affects the discussion with your customers with the buyers on to getting the WDO termite inspection for their protection. So at first left, you can see the subterranean termite. They're most common in Florida. The black eastern subterranean termite is responsible for probably 70% of the termite findings in Central Florida. All right, they come from the ground. That's why that's called sub and terranean. That's where they build their colonies, and that's where they reproduce. Or they start to build their colonies, but that's where they end up going. They go to move to other locations, and they'll travel 6 to 8 inches from the top of the grade of the soil, and then they will go ahead and infest and try to build their own colony. They can crawl up through cracks in your foundation. They can go up block walls. They can go in between block walls, etc., and get to their location. One thing is that they're going to need is their food, which is going to be a wood material and access to water. All right, so and the subterranean termites, they need a pretty good amount of water in order for them to survive. If you take the water away from them, then they won't be able to survive. So a lot of times they may be up into your home or into the seller's home, and they'll be eating the wood that they have there, but they'll be traveling back and forth to the ground to get some more water to continue to survive. Okay. So wood decay, we've already talked about that a bit. It's all different facets and all phases. It's actually a cellulose, and it's in damp wood, and it causes structural weakening over time. All right, so you can see that on fence, you can see that on handrails, you can see it on your garage door panels, any of your framing, your trim of the house. Your door jambs is a very common area in your garage. Most of the time that door goes unopened and it goes unnoticed. So if you want to do kind of a quick peek when you're there showing, you might want to open up the man door, which is the personal size door that goes to the exterior of the house from the garage, and you'll find a lot of termite activity in there. It's very common. Your drywood termites, they don't need as much water. They move very slow. They're usually something that would be found more so in an attic location and or a crawl space. They produce a different kind of frass, which is their waste product. It's a combination of the wood and their saliva, and it looks like actually coffee grains, and it's hard. It's 6 concave sections, and it's hard to the touch. If you try to press it down with your thumbnail, it would shoot out. So it's really like a petrified wood. And then there are beetles as well. They can cause rot, and then they also burrow through the framing trusses of the house. So you have old house borers, which are one of them, and powder post beetles as well. So those are something usually found in probably the old house borers, because that's the name, usually find in homes that are 1960 or older. But you have to be able to notice it. Sometimes people think that it's a grain, but it's actually a what you call a gallery for the beetles. Okay. And then just going back on drywood termites, they originally they can come into furniture in a house, and they don't necessarily need soil contact. Okay, so you can have your drywood termites up in your attic location without actually have ever touched the ground. So that's where they're different from the subterranean. And you may hear some subterranean termites called Formosan termites. They are prevalent here, and they do have phases where they're really making their rounds around, and they're very aggressive. They can go through a wall of a house in just a few days, 3, 4, 5 days. Okay, and they can cause a tremendous amount of damage. They're not seen very often. I've seen them probably 6 times over those 7 years. All right, so a lot of times there's confusion of your termite and your ants, right? So you see a pile something crawling around, and everybody kind of freaks out that they might be termites, and they could be. And we do ask that you do get a professional to do it, to come out and look at it. But you could have a little bit of peace of mind in the meantime, by checking these different ways to distinguish between a swarm ant and a termite. So your winged ant is going to have the bent antenna, as you can see on the figure 1 on the left side, and then your termite is going to have a straight antenna. Okay, so there's not going to be that bend in it. The wings on the winged ant are going to be 2 different sizes. All right, so you're going to have the front 2 wings are going to be longer than the rear 2 wings. For the termites, they're going to be all the same size. Another way to tell also is the body. The ants go to a very, very thin waistline, as opposed to the termite swarmer, which is much thicker. It pretty much matches the middle section of their body. Okay. So ants, same as termites, they do swarm seasonally, and they're just mostly a nuisance pest, unless they're carpenter ants. Swarm, and then the termites, they swarm in warm, humid weather, which in Florida could be in the spring and or the fall. Okay, and then they do cause the structural damage. Okay, does anybody have any questions pertaining to the anatomy and or anything that we've discussed so far? Okay. All right, so Florida, it's a termite hotspot, right? So you can see in the map on the right-hand side of here, this is kind of the where you can find the termites at, with the lightest green color being at the top in the northwest, and then in the gray in the north, in the central, north central. You can see California has a very heavy population of termites, and then you can see us in Florida, eastern side of Texas, Georgia, and other surrounding states in the southeast. Okay. You can see in the bottom right, the Formosan termite is the blue right here, and you can see that they're mostly in our areas here, kind of all the same areas further south. All right, so the one thing about termites or Florida is we don't have the deep freeze that you have in other areas as you go further north. So the colder the areas get, the more likely that they're going to have to go further down, and or they're not going to survive. So that's why they're in the more of the warmer areas without the freezes in them. Okay, so compared to the most of the U.S., Florida ranks among the top states for termite activity, with infestations occurring more frequently and spreading faster. We've already went over the different types. They do have activity year-round, and we're one of the top 5 states. Cost of termite damage. Termite cause over $5 billion in damage annually across the U.S., and most homeowners insurance does not cover it. State of Florida is around 500 million a year in termite damage. Okay, so it's a pretty costly fix. There's different ways of treating them, and we'll go over that, but the best way is always going to be preventing. All right, here you can see some activity from around the state, and you can see different larvae. You can see down here some nymphs. You can see the damage over here in this wood here, and then this right here. You can see in the center picture with the green wood background. These are subterranean termites. And then this is what they call is mud. So it's actually because of the subterranean, what they use is part of what happens is when they bite into the wood, it mixes with their saliva, and then they expel it out, and it's almost like a mud. And you can find out if you open up boards and stuff, and you can see more of this. This will differentiate, as opposed to a drywood termite would have the 6-sided concave petrified wood that I discussed. Okay, so VA and FHA loan requirements, right? So everybody's run across this, and You don't want to have the inspector go back out to do a loan for the VA because it wasn't done the first time, because the termite inspection is required by the Veterans Administration. Okay, so the inspection gets scheduled by the VA FHA's requirement, and it's early in the process, so we want to get that done right away. Form 13645 is completed. A licensed inspector completes this official documentation. What's different about this document, because we have the wood destroying organisms in our reports, this is the only form that's allowed by the state of Florida. Okay, so you may have somebody call up and say, well, this report is not the right report, we require a different report, and you can just reply back to the VA or the FHA that this is the required document from the state of Florida, and it's the only document that we're allowed to use. Okay. Of course, the report is then submitted to the lender, and which is required for underwriting and closing approval. If there's any issues with the WDO termite inspection, the VA is going to require that that is resolved before they'll go through with the loan process, which means that the homeowner, seller, is going to need to, or those responsible for the home are going to need to make those repairs on the property, and then by the home inspector or the individual doing the WDO inspection is required by this state of Florida to do the whole inspection over again. Okay, so you just incorporate some time, think about that. They may need to come back out. It may just only be wood decay on the front garage panel or one area on a backwoods thing, but it requires, because you're going to be back in the property again, you're writing out a report for that date. That means that the whole inspection needs to be done over again. Okay. All right, so the inspector training in the form, as we were talking about, anybody who's able to do termite inspections in the state of Florida has to go through a training. It's at least 40 hours of school training and at least 12 to 20 inspection trainings as well. All right, they need to use the form 13645. And the inspections different than a lot of other states. Most other states, the state of Florida does have a regulation department for termite inspections, and that's through FDACS, which is the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. And again, the inspector must be licensed. They must be carrying their card with them at all times. At any time on a WDO, an inspection, an FDACS representative can show up and question the termite inspector. All right, so these are some protections and treatments that can be provided for prevention. You want to make sure that you seal the builders initially when they're building the property, or any times that any of the slab or the walls or anything like that are disturbed. They always need to make sure that the cracks are sealed and the gaps are sealed, and any kind of utility opening for plumbing, electrical, that's all sealed around it as well. Always need to manage the moisture around the foundation in the attic. A lot of times you'll see a conducive condition called out in the termite report, stating that there's wood near the house that needs to be taken away. There might be a condensate line from the HVAC system that may be draining towards the house and the foundation. Something may not be pitched correctly. Maybe an issue for the structural portion of the foundation, but it's also an issue for the for drawing. It's a conducive condition, which is something that will draw termites to that home. Obviously, trimming vegetation, removing any wood to soil contact. So you always want to make sure that the grade is down below the wood to soil contact, and then keep the perimeter clean in insect vulnerable areas regularly. So studies done by state of Florida. A lot of this was done at the University of Florida. The more vegetation that you have around the home, the more likely there's going to be termites going there. So termites will crawl from the ground and they'll go up the roots, stems of bushes and trees, and it gives them And then actually, because those roots and things are down there, they already have access to food that will help them survive long enough to find a location in the home. So treatments, you have soil treatments for subterranean activity. Your pre-treatment would be for new construction. Nowadays, they are treating the wood. They're treating the wood with a termiticide. It's called BoraCare. And they'll treat the wood during the construction process. After they've put the slab down and after they've put the framing down, they're going to spray that wood up from the ground up to about 2 feet. A lot of times, if you see a pre-drywall inspection, you'll see this purple coloring going 2 feet up from the foundation up to the framing, and that's the termite protection that they use. If you go back about probably 12 years ago, even up to like probably 6 or 7 years ago, most new construction were using a pre-slab treatment, and they would actually spray the soil with a termiticide underneath the slab, and that was considered to be sufficient at the time. But now different thoughts have come, and individuals are thinking differently. So they've chosen to do the treating of the wood, and it may just even be a cost-effective thing as well. Bait stations, everybody's seen those. You can see the Centricon stations, which are used by Massey. They're green. They're good for a long period of time. That is something that was used for quite a while, on and off. And depending on who has the contract, Massey may still be providing these to new home construction. The borate, we just already went through. Fumigation. So we went over new construction. These treatments are still actually good as well for, for active infestations. If there's an active infestation of a subterranean termite, there is what they call trench and treat, where the termiticide is mixed with water and it's injected into the soil every 10 inches around the full complete perimeter of the house. It may require that there's drilling done in the driveway and or back porch or front porch as well to make sure that they're covering enough of the area. They'll inject the termiticide that's in there. It's usually going to be a Taurus or a Termidor, and that system, those are usually good for about 10 years. Depending on how they do it, they may come back and actually offer to do a renewal, 6 or 7, not a renewal, a retreatment after 6 or 7 years, and they call it a booster. Right. For your drywood termites, those of you who've been in Florida probably long enough, you've seen tenting around a home. That's the only way that you're going to actively fumigate or eliminate drywood termites in every section of the home. Some companies, you can do some things if you're absolutely 100% certain that that's the only area that you found drywood termites. Then you can remove the wood, or you can do a spot treatment of that wood. So if it's something small enough to be just removed, door framing, etc., that can be removed and can be replaced, and then the area treated before it's replaced. Or if it has a lot larger piece of wood, you can actually inject a foam termiticide into the gallery, and that will take care of the drywood termites as well. Okay. Inspections, obviously having pre-planned, one of the protection plans that we just talked about, treatments, prevention, and then have an annual WDO inspection of the property for ongoing protection. They can identify hidden activity early before there's major damage, catch drywood and foremost and intense infestations while manageable, document the inspection for insurance, real estate records, etc. For maintenance, obviously you want to have that renewal treatment. You want to have that renewal of the warranty. You want to make sure the bait stations are checked regularly as appropriated for the different styles. You want to address any kind of leaks or wood damage, any kind of conducive conditions. So any kind of water intrusion in the home is something that you need to be concerned about. If it's something that's been ongoing and hasn't been recognized, it's definitely something that is a conducive condition for termites to come. And always re-inspect after hurricanes or heavy storms. And there's other things also that you can look for too. You can look for A-lace like wings, like when we went through the social of the termite when they swarm and then they go to start another colony. The termites will shed their wings, and you can have 10 to 20, 30, 4 or 5 wings at a windowsill or something of that sort, where they've swarmed in and then they've shed their wings and they've gone to another location. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? Okay. All right. So for treatments, when live treatment or WDO activity is found, treatment depends on the species and the type. Kind of just went over this quite a bit. This picture on the left, soil treatments. This is a trench and treat. They've already injected the termiticide into the ground all the way around the perimeter of the property, and then they're going to flood in the top 6 to 8 inches with additional water. With additional termiticide mix, and then they're going to take the soil and they're going to put the soil back over top of it, and then they can go ahead and move forward with whatever else you're going to be doing. So you can see in the middle is the borate. This is the termiticide that's used for could be used for drywood termites, but it's also similar to what is used on new construction nowadays. And then the bait stations is on the right, and those target subterranean colonies only, and it's ideal for ongoing monitoring. It is one of the better processes that can be used, especially for new construction. You just always have to make sure you keep up with the inspections. All right, so questionable protection. So these are the things that I can go over with you and that you should probably be in knowledge of. I will go through probably different circumstances for each one of these right here for you. We get a call sometime and say, oh, the agent thinks that there is, usually it's the seller's agent, right? The seller's agent thinks that there's already protection on the property, okay? Well, there may be bait stations, there may have been some sort of treatment, or there may have been some kind of a WDO inspection. However, many times the homeowners will will not continue with their inspections, and then it leaves gaps in the protection, and then termites can arrive during that period of time. So we normally recommend that if somebody has some sort of a protection plan in there, to provide that warranty for us so we can review it during the inspection. A couple reasons why. Most of the time, 85–90% of the time, the warranties are going to cover subterranean termites. However, they're not going to cover the drywood termites. All right, and drywood termites do access the home. They do go up into the attic. They are under crawl spaces. They are in several different areas. The bait stations, the pre-treatments, none of those work for drywood termites. Okay. Minimal builder treatments. Some pre-treatments that they use don't last a very long time. Some new construction, we usually say, yeah, it's okay to forego a termite inspection during that. But we do recommend that the buyers go ahead and have an inspection done in a couple of years, and probably update and upgrade the protection that they have on the property. All right. Going to the bottom left-hand corner, we have the HOA protection. I hear that a lot of times. This is a townhome. This is a condo. The HOA has protection for the property, and so it's all set. It's all covered. Well, the things about an HOA protection is it's going to be covering only the exterior wall. So if you have wooden walls on the outside, it's going to cover from outside of the studs, the exterior wall only. The homeowner, home buyer, is going to be responsible for the studs going into the house. Okay, they're responsible for everything from there. So yes, the HOA may have coverage, but they're not going to cover as much as you would think they would. Another thing also for the HOA, it doesn't cover any kind of drywood termites. So the drywood termites would be not part of that contract. And then it also, if we're doing that inspection, or if they forego that inspection and there ends up being damage, most of the insurance contracts or protection plans do not cover damage. Okay. Lower grade stations, there are multiple lower grade bait stations that are used instead of the Centricon stations, the green ones that are used by Massey. There are hexagon stations And there are also Tree Lona. So the Tree Lona is a brown station with a black cover and cap on it. It has product that goes in there. It actually has live termiticide in there, so I like that. But it's only good for 1 year. It needs to be swapped out every single year. And most people will not continue to do that and pay because there's an additional cost for that to be swapped out. And then monitoring sticks, you see that in the Hexa. It's a Hexa Chrome, I think it is, or Hexa station. And it is a gray station with a screw top. It's not very wide. If you were to open it up, inside of it is not a termiticide, it's a monitoring stick. So it's just gonna be a couple of pieces of wood that are in there, and they need to be monitored every 2 months. All right. So some may say, oh, we'll only do it every 3 months or every 4 months, or a lot of times pest control companies will use this monitoring sticks so that way they can state that they're already out there to do these monitoring sticks. That why don't you just go ahead and let us do your termite, your pest control as well. So it's kind of a way for them to upsell what they're offering for the home buyer or the homeowner. All right. So I don't recommend that. I always recommend that there's product inside there. When I talk to your buyers, or our office talks to your buyers, we do tell them a little bit about this. We don't go into this much detail about it, but we do tell them that we are in a relationship with them, and whether they're we're going to check to see what kind of protection they have during the inspection. And then if they don't, or if they're going to move forward with purchasing a different sort of protection later on or right after, we ask them to involve us to go ahead and send us the contract that's being offered by the pest control company. They have, by state law, they have 24 to 36 hours to review that contract. And we ask them, even if it's a year down the road, send us the contract. We'll review it. We'll go over it with them. And obviously, we always tell them to make sure that they get a couple of different options. So again, it's part of our relationship building, making sure that we take care of the buyer ongoing. We're not just going to disappear. So this is kind of goes into a little bit of that, how we're different. Our competitors, they may have a need for multiple appointments. They may not have the capability of doing the WDOTermite inspection themselves while they're doing the home inspection. They may need to hire another company with a different charge or a different appointment time or a different requirement. There's going to be delays between the reports, communication gaps, inconsistent quality, and then they're one and done. You know, they don't care what they end up finding. The termite inspector is only there trying to get that done and get to the next property. They don't really have any skin in the game. They're not really concerned about your buyer, your client, our client, like we are. So our process is integrated. We have one coordinated visit. We're going to get you back the home inspection and the termite inspection reports all on the same day. They're going to go to the same location, so you can see them all together. If the buyer uploads them to their digital home binder, then they're even still yet. They're going to have them all at one location that they can keep forever. We're a single point of contact, so you don't have to go out scheduling, or your buyer doesn't have to go out scheduling, another person to do the termite inspection. So we can take care of that as they're talking to us about the home inspection. Our service is standardized, it's consistent, it's constant throughout. We're into relationships and helping the buyers with ongoing support. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? So the subterranean is, for GG, subterranean is definitely more destructive. They can build a mud tube of about 1.5 inches in less than an hour. So they are the most destructive. And then the Formosan, which is a version of the subterranean, move much, much quicker. They can destroy an area or wall very, very quickly. A drywood termite is going to move very slowly. The thing about the drywood termites, they're usually going to be in the harder wood. They don't need access to water, so they're less likely to be discovered by the homeowner. And getting into that point, if you have termite protection, most likely it's not going to cover the drywood termites. However, the inspection from the company that you're purchasing or the buyer's purchasing for the protection plan, that inspection should be done. It should not just be done on the outside of the house. They should be coming to the inside of the house, and then they should also be going up into the attic as well. So the home inspector is looking at what he's seeing there at the time of the inspection. Could be something very deeply buried in there and no signs of it, but that can change quickly. That can change in the next swarming season, that year or the next year, whatever. And then going back, I know I wanted to say to you all about the destruction when drywood termites are not found in the attic. I explained to you how they swarm. So if you have drywood termites and you have one colony, one location in the attic, and they've developed a colony up there, they're going to continue to populate, and they're going to continue to swarm. And most of the time, they're going to swarm back into that house again to another location. And if they swarm once or twice a year, you could have 4 or 5 different colonies within the attic location of the home, or between the attic location of the home, the crawl space of the home, and right actually in within the home as well. They're going to continue to mate. They're going to continue to reproduce, continue to make new colonies. Anything else?
Any other questions for Jim? All right, Jim, thank you for coming in, man. That was some great information. Love to see how you guys work with the client, continue to work with them down the road.
Yep.
Keep the agent involved as well. So that's great that you explained that at the beginning. Any other questions for Jim before he goes? All right, thank you, Jim. Jim, will you share your website? You said to look at my website earlier, but it wasn't on that page. If you'll share it in the chat.
Yes, sure will.
And that way we'll have it on here and it'll be recorded as well.
Cool beans.
All right, thank you, Jim. Thanks for coming in. After you do that, appreciate you coming in, man.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Okay, guys, any other questions? FRI business? Any other questions for me? All right, guys, thank you for coming in. We'll have something good for you next week as well. Let Jim get his chat in there.
I do have a question, quick question.
Yes,
Sorry.
go ahead.
I haven't done rents for a while, and so with this new thing about the commissions, do we send them a request, or how do we check
for
how
rentals?
much are they paying for home? Yeah, single family rental.
I don't believe there's a form for rentals. Maybe there is, but you don't need the compensation form for rentals.
So I just asked them how much are they offering?
Yeah, how much are you offering?
Okay, sounds good.
You know,
All
the tenant representative, or however you want to call it for tenant placement.
right.
They call it a referral. Sometimes they call it different things. So,
Okay.
yeah, just ask them how much they're offering you and get it in writing. You want to send them one of those forms, you can. Christina.
Hey, just curious, and I can check with the lender, but I figured somebody might know. With the government shutdown, I have a VA buyer. Is that going to prevent like funding for that type of a loan? Anybody know?
I talked to Paul. I think it's slowing them down a little bit, but it's not stopping them because they are considered essential.
Okay. And then piggybacking on the last question. So if I place somebody in a rental, I just submit the request to the broker, or how do we even? I haven't done that one before, so.
You're talking about
yeah, for compensation, like how do we,
You guys can try those forms if you want. That's what I would do. Use the form, seller's broker to buyer's broker.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Anne.
Yes, I have a transaction that is pending right now and is fell through, but we try to do lease option to buy for the buyer to buy 6 months from now to work on his mortgage. So right now, he pay rent. 6 months later, he will closing. So do I need to pay 2 transaction fee or 1 transaction fee in this transaction?
It's do it as a sale.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions before we go? All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for coming in. I hope you guys learned something from that. I know it wasn't super exciting, but it was important stuff, and just knowing what to do and where to go from getting that termite inspection and knowing how to handle it is the most important thing. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next time.